Hello, Rick DiClemente with you and Astrology Unplugged. Looking very much forward to tonight. I was, as I always do, I go over these lists and I keep trying to think of what subject to send you on Tuesdays. If you don't know that, if you belong to my website and you belong to my mailing list, then on Tuesdays I announce what the Thursday subject will be in case you don't know that. Also, if you're just a regular member of Facebook, I put it out on Tuesdays. Anyhow, this Tuesday, I was arguing with myself about what to talk about, and since last week was a really interesting topic about hidden values in the United States chart, what really came up to me tonight was mind blowing. Mind blowing. And what that is the realization that I've been sitting there looking at the USA chart since 2005 with the sun opposite Eris. Sun opposite Eris. Eris opposite the sun. Sun opposite Eris. Hey, Rick, it's only sun opposite Eris. And my inner self said, you ain't talking about nothing else. That's what you're talking about. I said, well, let's think about that. And he said, no, that's what you're talking about. Because it's really, really super major. And I'm not exaggerating tonight. I'm going to explain to you why. And I'm really going to be looking forward to add a commentary from the other Rick who's good with this stuff. Okay, now in 2005, Eris was discovered, and I know I talk a lot about Eris, and I'm going to talk about it even more because people need to talk about it. 2005, she was discovered, and I guess there was some question about it, and she was rediscovered in 2006. So we'll go back to 2005. Now, when you go to the chart of the United States chart, no, that's not it. When you go to the United States chart, okay, here's the USA's normal chart. Okay, what are all these? Huh, messages on the computer. Okay, this is the United States chart. Let me get it on your screen. Here comes Linda S. I want you to pay attention tonight because this won't be easy, but it's mind blowing and the ramifications are unbelievable. This is my opinion. Now, here's a USA chart. Of course, in 1776, a lot of these planets weren't on there, but in 2005, we ended up calculating where Eris was in 1776. So then we put her on the map. There she is at 8th degree of Capricorn. And it just so happens when we put her on the map, she's opposite the natal sun. Ah, let's say that again. When we put her on the map in 2005, we found out that in 1776, she was at the 8th degree of Capricorn, opposite the sun at 13 degrees of Cancer, which is the main planet in the chart. So here I am going hum de dum dum dum. And it wasn't until last week when I did the ramifications chart that I realized how major this is. You can no longer think of the United States as a cancer country. It's still a cancer country, but it's a cancer opposite Eris. Now I ask you to think in your mind. This is how I lived, and I goes, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. No, I do. Think about yourself being a cancer country. Think about the cancerian things in your life and all the biscuits that you're making for your grandchildren, and smell all the good things that in the kitchen that you're cooking during Christmas for the kids, and all the cute little dresses that you put on all the little girls in your family. Okay, now think of you as sun opposite Eris. Sun opposite Eris. Now, I'm not going to be able to explain this to you until I explain to you more about what oppositions are about. And aspects are very misunderstood, very underrated, very overrated in astrology. An aspect is, where is a planet in relationship to another planet? Is it a right angle? Is it opposite? Is it not making an aspect? But the main ones in astrology, because I'm going to take my time tonight. The main ones are conjunction, where two planets are found together. Usually I use an orb of 9 degrees, and an allowance of about 9 degrees. Everybody's a little different. Then other planets are opposite each other within 9 degrees. Other planets are opposite each other different ways. And then there's squares. These are the main ones, the right angles. Well, when you're born with these, let's just talk about the opposition. I'm born with Sun opposite Uranus. I don't think any of you could argue with Sun opposite Uranus when you see me and you hear me. Many of you have major oppositions in your chart. When you have an opposition to another planet, it does not mean, like many books say, it's going to really be bad, and the really bad part of the opposing planet is really going to outnumber the sun, the main planet. Doesn't mean that. It has some truth, but oppositions are heavy. And when they're close, they're heavier. Okay, so we look at this chart, I believe it's 5 degrees. So when we put it 13 degrees opposite 8, it's a 5-degree opposition. So it's an average opposition. It could be 1 degree, it could be 9 degrees, which is much weaker, but it's 5 degrees. So it's an average one, but it's still an opposition. Which means that every time, even before 2005, when it was discovered, it was still there in our nature, suppressed within our psyche. Every time since 1776, when we went to express our Cancerian nature, and we got on the stage to sing a Cancer song, Eris said, no, I'm singing too. You're singing? I don't want you to sing. I don't care. You're just the sun. I'm, as of right now, the most powerful planet in the zodiac, I think, at the moment. There may be some argument about it. But nevertheless, Eris is really reckless. Eris is really intense. It really is ass kicking. It's got a very good side to it, but it's not at all anything like Cancer Sun. A Cancer Sun is about taking care of me, making sure I'm safe, taking care of my family. We've talked a lot about this, making sure I'm okay emotionally. I'm usually really rather tender, sensitive, usually. Eris, on the other hand, we've talked about a lot, is about fairness. I will kick butt until I see fairness. You try to deliver to me unfairness, I will show you the opposite. It's about being included, not excluded. It's about justice, fairness. Some people, because of that, have tried to say that it therefore is the ruler of Libra. There's no way. There's no way that's true. I mean, the fairness part matches up nicely with Libra's nature, but there's just too many things about Eris that's non-Libra. The thing about Eris is volatile. It doesn't care what it has to do to achieve fairness. This is why you've been seeing this mood in the world since 2005. And I had a hunch today, and I went back 6 years before that. What happened? Columbine. If you don't think that was a major turning point on the earth, then I suggest you give it a lot more thought. Look at what happened to our country since Columbine. The thing about Eris that I really like, and what I'm trying to tell you is this Eris opposition gives us a lot of the negative qualities of Eris and also gives us a lot of the positive. That's why I'm so excited because I've been so distraught for months at looking at the wimpy USA chart. It's not wimpy anymore. Not wimpy anymore. With the sun opposite Eris. Now, when you have a planet opposite the sun, what we're talking about is what major modifications happen to the real personality of the subject. The sun is your personality. It's your main planet. And when Eris is there, Eris is going to bring about positive and negative um, additions to the sun's nature. And what's really weird is I don't think you could pick two planets any kind of combination that are a worse match. I mean, these two planets just, quote, don't get along. Cancer wants everything nice and soft and easy and take it quiet when you're expressing yourself. And Eris is like, boom, boom, bang, bang. I'm going to say what I got to say. So it's intriguing that this has become revealed to all of us as our nature. And do you think you need to talk other countries into revealing and accepting this fact about us? These people, if you walk around Europe or talk to Europeans, they absolutely cannot understand what we're doing with so many guns. We don't even know. We're stunned. Again, Uranus, if it sees unfairness, if it sees you, the Peter principle, moved into a position that's higher than you deserve, if it sees you being unfair, counting people out, it's going to kick some butt until it gets things straightened out. And I've been telling you for week after week, it's about we're going to solve it now. We're fed up with it. We're done with it. We're going to solve it. That's why you're seeing what you're seeing in the news. You're seeing this phenomenally ugly story come out of the Middle East, and you're also starting for the first time to see some hope possibly in that area that maybe they will listen. You're seeing the Black lives, the American Indian stories, the people who've been oppressed all through South America and through Africa. All these stories are changing. And and I'm sorry if you don't like this, but this is just true. This is how basic quantum physics works and quantum identity works. When you look at the USA chart, you're looking at the chart of the world. When you look at the chart of the president, you're looking at the chart for those 4 years of the United States. The leader's chart is proxy for the entity that it rules. Therefore, not only have I had to take into account that the sun is opposite Eris and all that, I had to take into account that it represents the whole planet, and there's a T-square to Saturn. me show you that. In the natal chart. Ain't that a doozy? I got Rick's head going up and down. So here in the USA's chart, I'm not going to get into too much detail. You have Sun at 13, you have Eris at 8, and you have Saturn at 14. That's a T-square to Saturn. Now, I'm going to explain to you about T-squares. T-squares happen when there are two planets in opposition, and a third planet is either up here or up here. So you have the energy going back and forth in an opposition, which happens to be great. The energy in an opposition is very volatile because it is woo, woo, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. They're having it out. And when you have a T-square, there's a tendency, sometimes good, sometimes bad, for that energy to express its excess energy through the third planet, which is Saturn. Well, coming to a third planet like Saturn ain't like coming to Mars, and it ain't like coming to Venus, and it ain't like coming to Jupiter. You don't express energy through Saturn and it gets expressed on through the field like that. Saturn doesn't do that. Saturn said, oh, hold on for a minute. I got a hold of you two now. Let me see what I'll do to you. Saturn's a terrible planet to have energy coming through because it's all about controlling. That's what Saturn's about controlling and making sure things happen. So, in one way, it's good. I guess you could say that Saturn keeps us from shooting ourselves in the head, but it's a terrible planet when it comes to being an offset, being a channel, being expression of the other two. So, what does the sun opposite Eris mean? The sun opposite Eris means, and remember, all oppositions are about the seventh house. So if I bring up this other visual, here is the sun opposite Eris in our chart. This is what I put on Facebook, and you'll notice here, I'm trying to move, there we go. When you look at a chart, it's very normal, it's very advised, especially as you're beginning, to put the sun on the ascendant. Temporarily, we're going to put the sun on the ascendant. This is what's called a solar chart. The sun isn't on the ascendant, which means we would have been born at sunrise if this were true, but we weren't. We were born 5 o'clock. We think, so the sun's over here. But for analytical purposes, to further analyze the qualities of the sun, we can put it on the ascendant. And what happens then? Then Eris is over on the descendant. This is me, this is others. This is me, us, this is others. Look at Saturn down here. That's a whole different story. Sun opposite Eris. So when you have an opposition going across the first house, seventh house, it's all about how do you get along with other people? How do you get along with non-selves? I'm the self. How do I get along with the other selves? Whether it's my son or my daughter or my wife or another country, it's me and the other. And astrology very usually based upon this theory of I and other. And if you get that principle in your mind, it'll really, really help you to learn to translate. Because half the zodiac is just a mirror of the other half. Only one is a us, one is a we, and one is an us. One is a we and one is an I mean. So when you're looking at the opposition, whether it's a transit that comes into play, and there's an opposition, whether it's a transiting planet that comes and opposes your Mars or opposes your moon, whatever opposition it is, it has everything to do with checking out all your relationships. Because only when you're fair to yourself is your combination of you and the other going to be correct. And only when you're fair to the us is it going to be fair to the I. And we've been operating for the longest time. Liza and I have been talking about this with the brilliant questions she brought up tonight. What did these people intend when they came over, the pilgrims? Freedom of religious expression. I said, that's what we were told. What was it really? A land grab, a land grab, free land. It's beautiful. The explorers came back and said, there's just, as far as the mind can see, there's all this free land and a couple of little natives around that if we get rid of them, it's all ours. Man, that's a big deal. So, what it really came down to was an experiment started then, and the experiment is coming to an end now. That's what's happening. There's every reason to think that we're going to get another chapter. I don't know. But the experiment of America is now ending. And the experiment is if I treat you bad, it's going to fall back on me badly. If I treat you wonderfully, it's going to be wonderful for me. There's no joke. There's no sleight of hand trick. It's everything Jesus tried to tell us. It's exactly what we didn't do. It's exactly what we didn't do. Did we run down to Colombia? Did we run down to Uruguay to help these people build their roads, to help them get their ore out of the ground, or did we take advantage of them? Did we help the people in Uganda? Did we help the people in South Africa to establish their countries with our new discoveries? No, ran down and grabbed. That's like the Dutch did, and the French did, and the British did. So it just goes on and on and on and on and on. The only difference is that now Eris is here. Eris is now manifest in the collective psyche. And Eris is, I don't care what you've done, it has to be repaired. I don't care what you have done, it has to be repaired because she's the goddess of fairness. Why is she the goddess of fairness? Because fairness is smart. That's simple. Fairness is smart. But if you've been following a lot of our politics, you've not seen that. Domination, stealing from, taking advantage of, capitalizing off of is what's really smart. Doesn't work. That's the end of the chapter. It doesn't work. That's why we're here. That's why we're talking about it. I don't claim to take the whole hour and a half by myself tonight. I'm just going to get the subject started here from all of you. But that's the story. That's the story. Don't let anybody BS you that there's another story. Okay? I kept telling people 7 years ago when this program started, I kept talking about opposition that we were having and stuff, and I kept mentioning in the America's chart we were going to be tested on our ability on how we treat other nations. I just harped on it. I'll show the videos. You cannot get around it. Anybody that's got an idea how we can get around it, let me know. I don't think you can. And it ain't no big deal if we just start treating other people better. And I'm talking about other people within the country. How many people do we treat terribly within our own country? How many of them do we make into theys? So now is the time to put your money where your mouth is. Now is the time to do it. And if you don't do it now, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen now if we don't shift? We're looking at bye-byes. We're looking at bye-byes to the country. I don't know what that means. I'm not talking about nuclear weapons. Not talking about Chinese invasion. I don't know, but you're going to see further and further decay of what we thought we were. So then the brilliant question comes out, because the planets are brilliant. Why did Eris wait till 2005? Why did she wait till 2005 to pop her head up and come about at the same time Trump did? So, when you talk about the opposition is about playing fair with your opponents and treating your opponent as if you treat yourself. And it's that simple. It's that simple. Christ 101, treating others as you want to be treated. 101. That's what we need to do. And many, many, many people still got the idea that if I'm going to protect my stuff, then I've got to treat you badly. And that just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Forget about the T squared of Saturn. Who the hell knows what that is? But that's the story. And that's not only the story, but everybody looks to America for so many things. And when we have the dominant chart that represents the world, when the Brits owned the world, it was the British chart. Now it's the American chart. It's that simple. But what I like about this is I think it's giving us some hope because it's showing us that deep inside, and perhaps not even that deep, we've all got a bunch of Eris in us. That means we got power. We've got power. Now, are we going to get our power through eking out our little whispers through our Cancerian side? Or are we going to get it out by blowing it out of our Arisian side? Eris is not here to be cruel. Eris is not here to be unfair, to slap people around, but Eris is here to stop the bullshit. That's what she does. I don't want to hear any more BS. Just like Teresa turned me off. Now I turned her microphone on. See? She didn't want to hear any of my BS. Well, I had to listen to hers. So what do you think, Mr. Rick?
I keep
I know you're
coming up
big.
with new thoughts every time you say something more. But
Feel
this is a
free,
great
feel
topic.
free to just ramble on.
Um, before you hit Columbine, I was thinking 2005 seems like a really elevated emphasis that was put on the divine feminine rising.
Yes.
And when you look at that opposition between first and seventh, to me, that's saying, look in the mirror. It's shadow work.
Yes, shadow work. Yeah.
You got the sun, which has its very strong pluses and benefits. You have Eris that is looking for the unspoken voice. You cannot ignore that being shadow like. And you put them together with that T squared of Saturn where you held your hand up like it's holding them together. And I can't help but think you two got to go ahead and work this out. that's the Lord of Karma. And it's basically trying to say you both have your flaws and your strengths. Where do you come up with balance? Libra balance. That's where you find your identity at its best. The other thing I could not help but notice is that Eris's brother Eris is at 16 degrees away from opposition with a 1-degree orb for a quinta Chile. That suggests some really powerful determined obsession.
Warlike.
Right. Well, the obsession of anyone can be very combative. Obsession is not pretty. And it's not willing to wait like the good little girl. You know, it's more. And then I listened to what you said about the Peter principle, how it can be such an infuriating thing. And I put Peter in. Peter is at 18 degrees Libra.
Oh, there's an asteroid called Peter.
Peter, yeah.
Well,
Yes.
we got to let people know that. Where is it at?
18 degrees of Libra beside Saturn.
Right here.
Yep. Yep.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So
What's Peter all about?
It can definitely imply things about the Peter principle, and then also recognizing its vulgarity as a male member name, how you're basically going to be inappropriate with people.
Well, what about the Saint Peter?
It will recognize some elements of the church. That's for sure. But that's old guard too. And Saturn does have this old way of being, because this is the old father style. Children are to be seen, not heard. He believed it so much, he swallowed his other children.
Right.
You know, because he didn't want them to grow up to throw him to overthrow him. The
Well,
only reason
why do you think Eris has come upon us at this time?
I think that it definitely strikes me as a blend of the divine feminine and the shadow.
Speak more of the shadow. What do you mean by the shadow?
The shadow is the internal parts of your personality that are just as valid as the external parts. But because they're underdeveloped and not well validated, they stay hidden. And you have to come to a space where you recognize this is who I am. And you have to.
And now, granted, what does that mean for the average American?
Well, it certainly does not have a good track record with puritanical origins in the Pilgrims, because that's all about repression.
Yeah.
You know, so they were certainly coming to this, oh, let's find a home where we can suppress everything to be the way we're comfortable in our own little walls. That does not bode well for Puritans or fundamentalists or anybody with a narrow mind. That's not easy. They have to go ahead. And Sagittarius on the rise of the US chart is all about broadening your mind. And I also thought too, when you were talking about this, when you mentioned Britain, I thought Britain was the monarchy that was representing colonialism and divine right. The experiment of the US, to me, seems like no longer is it the top down, but we are ruled by the masses. The masses are our greatest strength. And Pluto does, it's in the second house, which does say something about what we bring with us to the table. We bring the power of the masses. And I think that the great experiment of the US is of the whole planet.
And
Because
that's exactly right. And do you think that it's a coincidence that this end of a period coinciding with the Pluto return is
right,
a coincidence?
not at all. It's quite intentional. I think that this is evidence of a truth whose time has come.
That's exactly right. And when you talk about this, how do I put this? It's not because the teacher came in the room and shut the door and passed out the tests. We're so used to that mentality. That's not what's happening here. What's happening is inwardly, we know that we've got to get past this trial point. We have to get past it, or there's no possible way to continue evolving. That's the story. That's a
Right,
whole lot different than the teacher laying it on you. And that means the judges have to change, the elections have to change, the Congress has to change, the institutions have to change, the schools have to change, blah, 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 blah. Now that's an awful lot of stuff going on. Or, like we've seen in other ages, we might just fall. And another age might be the age of Canada or the age of China. Who knows? We don't know. We're arrogant enough to believe that, Leave It to Beaver is going to be here forever. Hmm. Mm-mm. And all this buffer, talk about cancer and their buffer. We have the United States, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Mexico, Canada. Talk about the perfect buffer all around us, which 9/11 destroyed.
that was important. It made us realize that we are not isolated. We are part of the
And
whole.
and we are
Wow.
vulnerable.
Right.
So we've obviously seen the bad side. The good side is, and I think this is really wonderful, that we should be talking about and teaching about and telling everybody in schools about the myth of Eris. And I think you're starting to hear more and more about it. She's starting to come out in the movies. She's starting to come out in literature where that principle of I'm not taking anymore has to rise to the surface. It's not, I'm not going to discuss it. We're just not going to have it anymore. That's a heavy statement. And that's exactly what needs to happen. And all these people that are trying to BS it and skirt the issue around it are in for a lot of surprise. Because it just can't happen in this natural world. Other people have any ideas, perceptions, anything on what you've heard? Yeah, Linda, go ahead, dear.
Two things. Paul Twitchell founded Eckankar, in this country, and he wrote a number of books. Anyway, in one of his books, he says that the United States, just exactly what you've said here tonight, the United States is like the global experiment for the ultimate conscious raising, fairness, melting pot, we are oneness, all that. And there was no guarantee that we would actually be able to do that. And if we don't do that, it will be passed to another country to do that. But it has to be a country with a lot of heterogeneity. It can't happen in Iceland. Iceland's homogenous, so it's not going to happen in places like that. it's going to be like Brazil or somewhere where it's like a lot of different kinds of people. You have to have lots of different people. So
Hmm.
that's just something to think about. The only other thing, what you just said about we can't give, this is just what's happening and it's going to happen. I think
Right.
the reproductive, the suppression of reproductive freedom is
Right.
like the biggest, that's like Eris all over the face, because
Yeah, you're
we
right.
let people have their guns, but women can't decide anything about their reproduction, or they have a miscarriage and they get, like in Ohio, they might have to go to jail because they had a
Yeah.
miscarriage and it slid into the toilet. I mean, it's so bizarre and it's so stupid that I don't, that's where I think the women thing, the Eris connecting with the shadow and the feminine
Oh,
comes in.
yeah, it's excellent.
No more discussion. We're
That's
tired of
this.
discussing.
Forget the discussion.
There's
No
no
more. No more
discussion.
discussion. Discussion
Mama
time
is
is over.
pissed.
And
Mama's really pissed.
the only three countries that I would follow, uh, in the whole planet as far as a model citizenship is the Scandinavians. From what I know, they have to be somewhat civil, thoughtful ways of treating each other. They're not crazy about military. They think about the wholeness of the whole group, Finland, Denmark, etc. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but how is this change? How is it going to come about? That's Capricorn's job to figure out how the new world will come about. I don't know. I sure don't trust a lot of people with billions of dollars in their pocket. I don't know. I don't know. It's worrisome. I definitely, like I said before, I'm definitely hoping big on the UFOs.
Mhm.
Hoping that they're watching and they're concerned and they're going to teach us somehow, because I don't see us doing it. But anyhow, tonight was a slap in the face to really realize what the sun opposite Eris means. And basically what it means is thou shalt not be thy sun sign. You're not going to get away with operating with your sun imperative. It ain't going to happen, because every time you sing a song, Harris is right there singing with you. And those two songs don't sound anything alike. So I think if any planet's going to solve all this stuff, it ain't going to be the sun. It is going to be Eris. And if it's Eris, it ain't going to be pretty. But I really do, from reading mythology, I do admire Eris's intent. It's really got a great intention. It really wants things over. Quit BSing everybody. Quit stealing from each other, everybody. And that's what I think Eris at his heart is. Claudia?
And the fact that we have been talking about that rising of the feminine values that I think can be missing in not just the US, like we talked about. This is not just the US. This is really everyone. I see it all over the place.
You're
And
right.
it really gives me a lot of hope. It's not because I'm a woman. It's really has nothing to
No,
do with being a man or a woman. And this could be this Pluto return. It's our death. It's our death. How we are reborn, we don't know. And I don't think nobody here really knows whether it'll take 5 years or 20 years or 30 years. But the fact that that feminine is seems to be, that voice is louder and louder and louder. it gives me hope. It, I vacillate between I'm filled with hope about, the young people and the feminine. Okay. But then I was watching a video today about this young lady that had moved to another country in Europe. I don't know what country. I want to say it was Italy. And she said in her video a few things about, I don't have to worry about this here. She's an American. And the last thing she said, I don't have to worry about gun violence. I never have to worry about that kind of thing here. It's just in a lot of other countries, it's just unheard of there. Remember the story of there was a guy in Japan who was shot. He was a politician. This was last year. It was a big deal. You cannot carry a gun. You cannot own a gun. No one sees any violence. Gun violence is just not, it doesn't happen. And then, I don't watch the news very much. And then I open the Yahoo and then we got another gun violence thing today. And I fear that we're getting immune to it. We're already immune to it. I fear that gun violence is for some like, oh, okay, yeah. It's like, oh yeah, it's raining again. It's awful. I mean, it just.
What gets me is who or what is going to lead us out of this?
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah,
entity?
that's
What
that's a good
corporation?
question.
What institution? What entity is going to be given our faith?
Right.
There's no FDR right now. There's no Lincoln right now. And you got to have those pure Aquarian intentions leading the way. You're not going to make it with anybody else. It's got to be the true Aquarian principles where we see everybody together as one
Mhm.
group.
I had a lot of, I think about it sometimes, or the story that Liza told us. And she told me when I saw her about just a few of them getting together and going down to,
Right, when they went to
right.
Harrisburg. Right.
That wasn't hundreds of people. That wasn't thousands of people. That
Or
was just a few people.
right.
And that is so inspiring. And yet at the same time, I thought that's what it's going to come down to. And I think a lot of people are not willing. They just kind of have their head in sand. Or just they're like, oh, somebody else will take care of it. Oh, somebody else will do it.
That's got to stop.
Yeah, yeah. And because I
That's
think the
got to
pressure is
stop.
getting so that
Yep.
We can't function like that. We must not function like that. Nobody else is coming. There's not going to be this,
The
even if they
cavalry.
are, let's face it,
The
even if we have a
cavalry.
decent leader. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Well,
Yeah.
I think it is encouraging to see how strong our Eris is. Now, when I've done so many readings for people and they got this sun sign opposite this planet, or they got this sun sign opposite that planet, what that means is the sun, you are a lot like that planet that's opposite you.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
just are.
Yeah.
Period. And the outer planets like Sun Neptune, Sun Pluto, Sun Uranus, these are really powerful charts. And you can forget about reading in the fine print about what your sun sign's like because you're overwhelmed by this outer planet that it's very hard to mix the two together and say how much sun are you, how much Eris are you. I don't know. There was a man once, and he shows up on Solar Fire software, and he created what was called Astrodynes, Astro Dynes, and he tried to create a formula. Put your birth chart in, and out comes a list that you're 4% air, and you're 22% water, and you're 33% Mars. And it was a real cute effort, but it didn't work because you can't do it. You just can't do it. And if we know anything about Sun and Eris, what does it tell you? What does it tell you? That the Sun, part of the Sun's nature is to run and hide. If I'm a Cancer Sun and I'm looking across and there's Eris, well, by God, I can't deal with her every day. I'm going to spend a lot of time going under the rock and hiding. And what do you think Eris is going to do? But boom, it's going to blast those rocks that we're hiding under. And it's really intriguing. And it's the last two planets that I would want to have in opposition. But yet there's another part of astrology that I think you just have to intuit. There's a part where Eris came at the right time. We don't know how or why, but it just did. And it's called wisdom. And that's what we're waiting to see manifest. Does that make any sense, Rick?
Oh yeah, for sure. We have to go ahead and dive deeper to extract
Yeah,
the wisdom.
That's right.
If anybody's looking for a mythological background for Eris, Eris will be most notably included in the myth regarding throwing an apple, a golden apple, between the three goddesses and saying it belongs to the fairest, and then Paris, a mortal, is tapped to go ahead and judge between them as to who is the most beautiful. Well, that was just a fool's errand.
So what did Paris do?
Oh boy, I have a hard time remembering the outcome, but the setup of the story is hilarious, right?
He chose Aphrodite.
That's what I'm thinking.
He did.
And in return for that, he received Helen of Troy, basically. It's what triggered the Trojan War.
Right.
Yeah. Aphrodite gave him, that's what she gave him.
Wasn't Aphrodite another name for Pluto?
No,
Venus.
Aphrodite is a goddess of love.
Venus is Aphrodite.
Venus.
Venusian.
Yeah, and,
right.
When you're looking at the Sibley chart and some other asteroids, Venus is very interestingly placed because Venus, well, let me say right before Venus is the asteroid Shadow at 2 degrees. Then 3 degrees are both Venus and Karma. And then Jupiter is at 5 degrees of Cancer.
In the USA's chart.
Yep.
Wow.
So there's a close tie there.
Wow.
Some sort of a karmic thing where we need to be keeping our desires in check. And that's something we kind of just go hog wild crazy with. And it's a very curious thing. I think we could do a lot more shows about tearing the US chart apart for idiosyncrasies into what's going on in America,
Oh, I think so. And it's such a enigma, this chart. It's really, I would never guess it's the chart that's ruling the world.
But we are in partnership.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you got big money and you got big guns and you got more ammunition than the rest of the world, you're going to be very reticent to give that away. Oh, I see what you mean. Let's share it with the rest. I just don't see that happening with the big-hearted Americans. I don't know, but I think a lot of countries are pretty unhappy with us now. Susan?
I'm like blowing up over here. So, and where to begin? There are so many things. First of all, you talked about the sun hiding. You talked about the sun hiding. This
Yeah.
is the year of the last major solar eclipse coming up in the spring. Okay, so let's start with that. It is a total solar eclipse. There won't be another for 20 years. This is this experiment, going back to your concept of the experiment and will it have failed or succeeded? This experiment was, can people rule themselves?
Right.
Or is rulership meant to be divinely given? Kings, the divine right of kings. That's what this was all about, going back to the 1700s. And the way it was to be proved was that through the Puritan work ethic, we were to be, as a city on a hill, setting the example to the rest of the world with the bounty that we would bring through the miracle of democracy. We were going to show the world. Okay? Now, when you talk about Eris rising up and saying, we're not going to take it anymore, what makes you think that the good guys are going to be the ones rising up? Because I'm beginning to see it as the political extremists rising up in this election, which I'm sorry to say, I believe is going to mark the end of democracy in this country. We have but a few months to show that the people who perpetrated January 6th will be held accountable. And by the way, that's the team that bought the Supreme Court. So you know that's not going to happen. Therefore, all the pieces are put into place and the propaganda machine has been wound up and is ready to go. And they're driving the loud, angry people with the myth that the Democrats and democracy has harmed them somehow and that they need to rise up and not take it anymore. And we're going to see, I believe, the second civil war in America starting about next January 6th.
I think you're close.
So I don't think Eris is necessarily a good thing in this case. If you want peace and love and kumbaya, I don't see that on the menu.
Right. That
Well,
was
I mean, if you refuse to go ahead and do the work of looking at your shadow, things will get worse. That's the nature of shadow work.
I'm not sure that me looking at my own shadow, Rick, is going to change the minds of millions of Americans who want to rise up with pitchforks and torches.
Right. That's why it has to be a societal view of how we have allowed the nation to go in a certain direction.
so
Well,
where
the people willing to hear that are not the people who are going to change the coming
that's
tsunami.
true. So that's true. And where are we welcoming will be in sync from? I see you popped up on our screen. Where are you at, dear?
Hey, I'm Marty. We met once before, Marty Adams.
Oh,
I am
yeah.
currently in Florida, but I live in North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Very good. And good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Well, it's a tough topic. Marcia, what kind of things you seeing coming out of New York area?
I think, first of all, I think the young women in this country are going to have a strong voice next year.
Yeah.
I really do.
Thank God.
Someone mentioned this case in Ohio about that young woman. It's fucking appalling what's happening to her. Being going to possibly go to jail for just a natural discharge of her body. Right?
Right.
And but I think things like this, and also the gal down in Texas who had to leave the state so she wouldn't lose her life. She had the means to get out of the state, out of Texas. But I think women are going to be a very important voice. And I think for all of us to talk to as many people as we can about this. Don't forget about it.
Right.
And people also need to talk about the gun issue. I mean, we all really have to work harder and be more seriously involved. Calling our congressmen, calling our senators, going to the state capitals, going on a march, talking to young people if you see them. It's really, really important.
Well,
I
that's really a good point, and Liza's on her way. I wonder what that's about. You smell smoke? Well, that's
What?
wonderful. Who
Uh-oh.
put it out? Let me know.
Eris is on fire.
Yeah.
No, I
We
think
got
it's the neighbor burning wood.
Oh,
Your thoughts, Erica? Sigmund, let us know what you think.
I just remember reading recently that several, I don't know if it was senators or Congress people from different states have asked to have stronger gun rules, and they have been won over. They were people who refused for years and years, and all of a sudden they're all starting to turn around and saying, okay, this is enough, this is too much, this can't continue. So everything moves so slowly when it comes to the collective, but that's positive, right?
Mhm.
Yes, Susan, go ahead.
Didn't California, the most liberal state in the country, just shoot down a gun ban that would have banned guns from, what was it, like 24 sensitive places like churches, synagogues, schools? And the argument against allowing that gun ban was it would be an absolute attack on the Second Amendment of the Constitution. And that's California.
That's a
Who
bunch.
is going to pick up the banner if California won't?
Well, the question I have is, how are you going to hold down so many brilliant people? Because
That's
we got a lot of brilliant people.
Yeah, right.
We got a lot of people that really care, and they're going to be. Did you find a? Oh, she found a cat instead. Looking for a.
It must be outside.
Yeah, it's outside. But anyhow, I just don't think it might take a little while, but I just don't think you're going to hold back all these people that have so much mental power. Liza's, I think, going to want to chip in here. She's been doing some work with this area in Western PA, and she and I talk a lot about it. What do you think, dear?
About political action, I'm sure.
Just about worth talking about now. We got all these issues, but how are we going to bring forth the change, etc.?
Well, that's a really big subject, and I think that it might be worth a whole other show. But it really has to start with finding peace within ourselves and finding the courage to do what we know is the right thing as individuals, and then we can also start working locally to build awareness. I mean, you can't just work locally and you can't just work nationally anymore because it's becoming more obvious how everything is interconnected. So we have to do both. Like with the group that I work with, we're going to be doing things for the Biden campaign coming up, but also working on some real community organizing things locally and trying to find out what people need and get people involved politically around those issues. But beyond that, I think, we really need to, and there's been a lot written and a lot of discussion lately about the quantum nature of reality and about how everything really is connected, and astrology is part of that quantum reality.
Sure is.
And I think, like, I'm not really prepared right now to discuss that deeply, but maybe it could be another show where other people could
Yeah,
do some
we can do that.
research and thinking about all of this, because that really impacts what we're talking about.
Well,
And
what do we do about the elephant in the room, which is rising fascism?
that's part of this, yeah. And we have to certainly be aware of all of that as a movement, but we also have to live our lives in ways that do not support that. I mean, we can't. I mean, surely we can go out and protest and do political things, but we also have to examine ourselves and our environment and see what we can do to keep that movement from steamrolling.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Renate? Anybody? Sigmund, go ahead, please. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, just a quick point in response to or following up in what Susan just said. California is going to appeal the banning of, or the blocking of the law that bans guns in churches, synagogues, public schools, etc. And the judge who made that decision was appointed by George Bush in 2003. So there's that. So it's really important to work for the people that we want, people who are going to take care of us and not stay home. So there's that. And also, just adding a piece onto what Rick C said, and he may have pointed to this. I've just been going in and out of the conversation. It's an involuntary thing. Is that shadow work? Shadow is also about the aspects of ourselves that we don't accept, that we don't like, that we don't want. And as he mentioned, that we don't deal with. And that's, so the rest of it is, the way out of that is, acknowledging them, which is, and no matter how long that may take or how often that may take, that's the first step to accepting stuff. When you accept stuff, you can let it go. It doesn't mean that when you accept stuff, it doesn't mean that you take on those behaviors. Quite the opposite. It means you let go of your resistance, you let go of your fears, you surrender those things, and so that they can drift away. Or if there's a message for you, do this, there you are. Don't do this, there you are. And then once you come around to all of that, it's easy to just let stuff be, not be embroiled in it, and be who you are, and take care of yourself. Be your best self. It gets easier once you do that, and you don't have the held resistance under the surface, driving you, and you think that it's fate, because it ain't.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's very good. We have 15 minutes left. Other things that we could take a look at, and it won't be simple. If you look at the United States chart, at the moment, the regular chart, well, what do we see? Eris at the moment is here at 24. You see that? Eris doesn't move, barely. And Eris is squaring Mercury. And it's sort of squaring Pluto. But it is squaring Mercury. And when Eris is squaring Mercury, this is the reason that you're seeing hotheads on the radio, on TV, in literature. People are expressing their angers. Mercury is a tremendous expression planet, whatever's hitting it comes through it. And with Eris just sitting there for at least 3 or 4 more years, this is going to be expressed. The key to this I see is, okay, everybody's frustrated. Okay, we have a sense of, yeah, she's the messenger of Eris. We have a sense of unhappiness. We have a sense that things have to change, but none of it's going to change if we do this. If we do this, Fox Network, massive screaming and blaming of the other. It just ain't going to work. It's going to blow sky high. That isn't going to work. And all that's here for is to protect the people with the money. Okay? In reality. But we've got to say, like she said last week on the show, we've got to start to listen. Talk to each other, listen to each other, because we're not all saying things wildly different. We want the same things, but this is a wild place, United States. This is the Wild West. This is not an easy place to calm down. Now, I think the Europeans are kind of glad that they're over there. All the Australians I talk to tell me they're glad to be down there. I keep seeing it like, oh, it's so far away. And they're going, yeah, we like it. Can't talk, Renate lost her voice. All very interesting to her. Even I am not much, though I'm not much into American politics. Well, good luck with your voice, dear. Anybody else have comments? How about the silent Claudia?
Well, I had a couple of thoughts, and they've already been mentioned, but oh, what are they? Wait.
They'll come back, and it's going to get.
Oh no, I got him.
It'll get
The
worse. Let me tell you that.
The reason why it is so important to look at your shadow, it's yes, we know it's a subconscious. It really, we need to look at those parts of ourselves that we don't accept or we deny, because in the end, it ends up controlling you if you do not look at those things in your behavior, in your actions. The thing you suppress becomes really critical. So if you suppress it and you don't look at it, that's why it's, let's just take a young man that's full of anger and he doesn't want to accept that he's angry. Well, the anger becomes more powerful then. And that is why it's so important. So it's really just simple. So if you do that and you do that and we all do that, hopefully there is a more enlightened view of each other and ourselves. The other thing I wanted to say was we need to have a conversation at some point about this eclipse, because
we got till April.
When an eclipse goes over any place, it's going right across the US. Not across, but it's going, yeah, it is hitting a lot of the US. That is huge. I want to go see it. But the changes that we're expecting, the way that this could literally change our country, and then of course we know that the rest of the world. No. Are you trying to show us?
Yeah, I'm trying to show you. Keep on talking.
Okay. Are you trying to show us the eclipse?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So yeah, I am going to be really looking.
It is 2025. It says March 29th It says partial.
It's April 8th. It's the
Oh, April
total
8th.
on
April 8.
There it is.
Yeah.
There's your line. Let me get it on your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy, it really is hitting big time. Look at that.
Yeah. You know, the last time we had, yeah. I mean,
Right through Pittsburgh. Oh, no, right above Pittsburgh.
yeah,
And the other one went from the other two corners. So that
exactly.
they create an X
Yes.
somewhere near the heartland.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
I mean, this is
intriguing.
huge. This is
Well, this
So
is
it's
going to
right
be,
over Cleveland, actually.
yeah, it's going to be right on Cleveland,
Mm-hmm.
Detroit,
Going
Western.
to be right on my house, right on my
Cleveland
house.
is already planning a whole big to-do around it, including
Really?
sure.
town orchestra presentation and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
You got a house in Dallas?
Arkansas.
I thought you had one in Arkansas.
That's
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Arkansas
Well, this
is
is
Go-
one of the states.
Go northeast on the line from Dallas.
Right above Louisiana.
Yeah, right above Louisiana, the other way, northeast.
Oh, yeah,
There,
There it is.
right here, right here.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
That's where I am.
I was
I have a
lost there.
son in
Boy, it's
Arkansas.
going right. We're all going to Linda's house for,
I don't
In
know if you're
my
aware.
backyard.
for a party. We're going to all
This
get
is
our
such a big deal that
beer glasses.
there are places that are totally booked as far as
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's all booked here.
everything is
Yeah.
booked. You have people that are going,
Lincoln.
people will be coming to Pittsburgh just to go up to Cleveland.
Oh, sure.
That's how
Everything-
bad it's booked.
Yeah.
You can't get near
Although
Cleveland.
Cleveland is mostly cloud covered that time of year. All of Ohio.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
investment is further south, actually.
Oh boy, I'm sure glad you brought this one up.
Yeah. I mean, who knows how this is really gonna pan out, but you know, we know the effects of eclipses are
Enormous.
enormous and long term. So
Claudia, I'd love to talk to you about the last one that made the other arc. Maybe we might come up with another topic.
Yeah.
to
the one
show.
in 2017.
Yes. Which
Oh, I
people
was
were
all
saying,
over the-
save your glasses.
Yes, I know. I should have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the pandemic, wasn't it?
No, 17.
17. It was late August of 2017.
The
Remember?
one that started in Washington and then came down through.
Exactly.
I can't remember what that one was. We've had so many crises, one after the other.
It's been
17 was the elections.
Oh, that's 18.
Yeah,
Well,
Well, the midterm
you gotta
elections.
give an eclipse a widespread. It doesn't work just one year.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
anyhow,
just
we're
wanted
gonna-
to say, I wanted to share two things. Hearing about how people are so upset because they feel like their emotions have gone flat, like there's just so much going on, with in the Middle East. They're worried that the war is going to get bigger. People just are wondering, like, why don't I feel anything about this anymore? How can I just keep going on knowing that this horrible stuff is happening? And they were talking to some experts and they just said it's just empathy overload, that you can only have so much empathy, and then you just feel, it seems like you feel nothing. That's one thing.
Mhm.
And then also I'm thinking about Jack Kornfield. I think that's his name. He started Spirit Rock and another meditation center, and he talked about being a young man and going to Tibet and finding a teacher and being told to sit in this hot hut and feel his emotions and feel the anger and feel, what you're talking about, what people are afraid to face. And the teacher just kept saying, "You're doing great." He's saying, I'm experiencing all these upsetting things. He says, "This is good. Keep going, and keep following that thread and pulling that skein of wool apart, and empty that out, but people are afraid to go there because they might go and drink, or they might grab that gun, or they might blow up that relationship or get fired from their job if they feel their emotions. And so they're afraid to experience them. So if we can figure out a way to do that in a safe way, so we can empty it all out, so that we can get to the point where we can have unconditional love for everyone, then all of that will end. That's, I just
Liza-
happened to come across those.
Liza has her hand up.
I just wanted to say, I know that one of the past shows that I've been on in the past years, I talked about a couple of people who were real role models. And one of them was Rebecca Solnit, who wrote this book, Hope in the Dark. And I just wanted to read a few sentences about the book. It says, with Hope in the Dark, Rebecca Solnit makes a radical cause for hope as a commitment to act in a world whose future remains uncertain and unknowable. Drawing on her decades of activism and a wide reading of environmental, cultural, and political history, Solnit argues that radicals have a long, frequently overlooked record of transformative victories, that the positive consequences of our acts are not always immediately measurable, and that the embrace of uncertainty is both more useful and more accurate an assessment than either passive optimism or pessimism and despair. So she talked about how the small actions of one of us, or maybe one of our ancestors years and years ago, led to a fruition of really good things happening in our world. And then we probably do those small things ourselves every day, and we have to take the long view and keep doing the work.
Well, excellent, excellent. And we usually do end up on a pretty good note. I got a sense that there's a lot of thoughts still inside Susan's head. Susan, did you want to say a couple more?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm hoping. Whatever happens this year won't be the end of the story.
Well, I think that's a good way to end this. And thank you all. Anything else? Thank you all. It's always so good to have our little family together.
Thank you, Rick.
I'll see you next
Thank you,
week.
Rick, and happy birthday.
Yes.
Yeah, happy
Thank you.
birthday, Rick.
I'm
And happy birthday,
37.
Marcia.
I'm 37.
And happy birthday, Marcia. Sorry, Marcia.
Marcia's 31.
You look
Yay!
amazing.
Turning the clock back.
And Teresa is 87.
Looking good.
Bye, everybody.
know. It's all in the
night,
allowing.
everybody.
We have to allow. And if you
All in the
allow, you'll
allowing.
be in peace.
Thank you.